This is Black Woman CEO. Welcome to the only podcast dedicated to giving you the raw and real experiences of successful Black women entrepreneurs. Yes, girl, we're talking about the behind the scenes strategies of what it takes to increase in your profit, power, and purpose. I am your host, Quanisha Green, and I invite you to sit back, relax, and enjoy today's show. Hi there, this is Quanisha Green, your host for the Black Woman CEO podcast, and I'm so excited to be with you today as we continue our Black Woman CEO Expert Series. And in this episode, we have my dear mentor and coach, Mia Redrick. Hi, Mia.
Hi there. I'm excited to be here today.
Good. I'm so excited to have you on. I get so giddy when I have my mentors on the line. I'm like, I'm sharing my people with the listeners. And so let me tell you a little bit about Mia. You're going to have her full bio in the show notes, but I always like to start out with who these folks be to me, and then they can talk about who they be by answering the question, who you be. Because if you're a new listener, you know that I love to start with who a person is before we get into what they do. So Mia, I actually found, I think I posted on Facebook something like, I need someone to help me as a mom and balance with this entrepreneurship stuff. And one of my friends was like, you need to check out Mia Redrick. And I checked her out at the right time because she was having some promotions and specials, and I signed up for one of your courses and it kind of been in your community since then and gone on to do private coaching. But one thing I particularly love about Mia, as compared to many of my other mentors who don't have children or didn't have young children when they started their business, is that she really speaks as a mom strategist. One, just as your life as a mom strategist, but also really combine this entrepreneurship. And how do you do this? How do you grow this business when you have school-aged children or young children? And I felt so stressed at that point. And really the models that you're like, hey, do this in a way that works for you. Let's leverage support and all these other things. And even though I've heard some of those things before, it just was like, people can say something to you and it's like a whole new, window opens up, a new door. And that's what Mia was for me. And as soon as I did those trainings on how to really build this business as a mom, I just went off and started implementing, and my business totally changed and started generating revenue faster than probably ever before. So Mia has really been my secret weapon, but I guess a powerhouse in my business. And I love that I get to come here and share her with all of you. So that's who Mia is. That is who Mia is for me.
Aww.
Yeah. So Mia, I guess so you can share yourself. So who you be? How would you describe yourself beyond what you do?
Well, what do I say after that introduction? I mean, that was amazing. I want to thank you so much for that. And, who I be, I'm a business coach, but I am the mom strategist. And literally what I do is support women with understanding that you can leverage what you know, package what you know, take your gifts and your talents and build a business that's informed by your life. I think so often with women, we think that we have to choose when we become moms, that you can't be as smart as you want to be and make as much money as you want to be and still be as loving and kind and available to your family. And it's just not true. So that's who I be. I, coach thousands of women and supported them with understanding not only that they can have it all, but literally how do you set those systems up in your life? How do you build a business that is completely congruent with who you are and your core purpose?
I love that. Completely congruent with who you are and your core purpose. Because I love that idea of building a business around the desired lifestyle. And I definitely think speaking for myself, but I know this will resonate with some other women, that as moms, we're still trying to figure out ourselves and then figure out what does it mean to be in this mom role. And then if you're building a business, it's like an identity crisis in a way, all these things are coming at you. So I love that you help us think about what does congruence even look like at this time, and even being open to say your business may change and evolve. So, So with that, would you say, your overall mission? And can you tell us just more about this work that you do in helping moms and women in these spaces?
Sure, absolutely. My story really is that 13 years ago, I said to my husband one night in bed, I want to go to work as myself. And he said, I hope somebody pays you to be yourself. I have a background as a corporate trainer, and I had these systems in motherhood that, I was a part of this moms group, and it was a small moms group, about 30 moms were a part of it, and I became the chapter president, and the group grew to 130 under my leadership within a year, split off to 3 different chapters. I knew I had these mom systems, and I didn't necessarily see it as a gift, but I knew there was something I was doing that was very attractive and supportive, that was coaching moms, right, in that way. And I wanted to merge those things together. And so I went to my small business resource center in my town to figure out how in the world can I combine what I know how to do, which is curriculum development, right, and this motherhood thing. And I was laughed at. I was literally told by the director of that business center that no one would ever pay me, in essence, to coach moms. And we didn't use those words because mom coaching wasn't popular at that time, that phrase. And I was so disheartened, I have to tell you, and I just knew it. It wouldn't go away in my mind. I just knew that if I took the best of what I did professionally and the best of what I knew how to do as a mom and put those 2 things together, I knew it had to win. Kept looking for someone to help me. And I ended up bumping into the second highest paid business coach in the country at the time, Terry Levine. And I started working with her, coaching with her. And it was the best decision I ever made in my life. And it was the only time I had ever seen someone that was an entrepreneur, that had actually had what I wanted, which was to build a business that was time rich. Because I wanted to be that mom, that cupcake mom that could be there for their kids and be at everything. That's totally me. I'm into that. And I wanted to build a business that way. And I wanted to stand tall on my own talents and education, gifts and passions. And I did that. So I went to work and to figure out what it would look like. And I know that a lot of the women that are listening to this broadcast, sometimes you don't know what it looks like. Sometimes what you want to do, it might not even have a name, Quanisha, because mom coaching didn't have a name, mom strategy. It wasn't something that anybody else was doing at the time. But I just focused more on staying steeped in my purpose and knowing that there were other women out there that were just like me, wanting to know the answers of how to merge together what they were doing also. How could they be a great mom and, use their own background, their education, their gifts to be able to monetize their purpose.
This is good. It answered a couple of the questions that I was going to ask, what is your area of expertise and why is it so important? But you said a lot, right? You talked about, particularly, I think that pivot point for you where you were like, wait a minute, there are women coming to me, even if I don't have a name for it, and for this person, right, this mentor to say, no, that's not a business. I think that would resonate with so many of our listeners because many of them want to make money from their expertise or a passion, and they're trying to figure out how to combine some of these skills and passions together, right, to make its own unique new thing, right?
Sure.
So why is that important, though, would you say, your expertise of particularly honing in on moms and helping them to create that time-rich business?
Well, the reason to me, I look, my oldest son just left for college 3 weeks ago. And I have to tell you that when I look at this now, I have 3 kids, 19-year-old, a 16-year-old as of yesterday, and a 12-year-old. And there was nothing more amazing to me, or has been more amazing to me, than seeing that my 19-year-old, who totally crushed it, right, going to college and choosing where he wanted to go and getting a full ride, but also for him to have the lens that I crushed it. So I love the fact that, for me, having built this business over the last 13 years, he's had the opportunity to watch his mom rock it out for herself. And I think that so many women don't get this. Like, we think that I'll wait until my kids go to college, or I'll wait until they finish track practice, or the track season, or whatever it is, to invest in myself, to go for my dream, to do the things that you really want to do that will really enrich your life. And one of the things that I've learned over the years is that one of the absolutely most selfish things that we can do as a mom is not give all of who we are to our kids because we don't know ourselves. And I know, and I stand tall in this, and that one of the greatest gifts that Patrick has is like, man, you know what, my mom, anything that I'm telling him to do, I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he's been calling back, every day or every other day saying, hey, I found this, or I'm doing this. But it's because he's like, you know what I'm saying? You get me, right? Because I'm doing that. And, and the last thing I want to say is that, and I don't know if you know this story, that my mom was the inspiration for my business. When I was pregnant, I was 6 months pregnant with my first son 19 years ago. And my mom made me promise her that I would date myself every single week when I was a mom, like as a mom. And she said she didn't do that. And she got lost in motherhood when my brother and I were between 11 and 12 years old. And she said, none of my friendships revolved around me. It was all about you guys, right? And she's like, I didn't choose a career for myself. I chose a job so that I could always be 100% available to you guys, but I didn't do what I love to do. And now I look at my life and I don't know who I am anymore, and I don't want that to be your story. So that was my mom's charge. And that's why, I decided to, start dating myself. I joined this mom's group, and I was the only mom that was not, that didn't have a baby. I actually was pregnant in a mom's group, right? Mm-hmm. And I was listening to these moms, Quanisha, say over and over again, you know what, I feel guilty for doing anything for myself. I don't have any time to do anything for myself. And I decided intentionally to enter motherhood, solving that for myself. So that's really how everything really started.
Well, there's so many good pieces of it that you just shared, but I definitely want to pull out this idea of dating yourself, listeners. I know I work at that, but that philosophy, even that we are important, right? It really can overshadow so many of the other aspects of who we are. And I remember, I think it was about in the first year and a half of my business, I was pregnant and about to have my baby probably in like 2 or 3 months. And I really was at this point. I remember talking to one of my mentors, like, I think I'm not going to do this. I think I'm going to close up shop and just like focus on the kids, because it does become hard. And kind of coming out of maternity leave is when I found you, and it was like, oh, it's possible. But they couldn't mentor me from that point because they didn't have kids, right? They were like, well, I don't know. Okay, that's what you want to do. So I love that. To me, it is important to have someone who's walked that walk, and you're walking that walk not just for yourself, but for your kids. It's funny that you mentioned that in reference to your son. I had an aunt who just texted me. She was like, are you going to teach your boys to be entrepreneurs? And I was like, I never thought about it that way. But by me living it, they're going to see it. So you sharing, I was like, wow, they are going to watch me do. They are.
Yes. That's right.
Like, mommy works at home. My son's like, oh, okay. At 5 years old, but they'll see you walk this walk, and that is inspiring in itself, whether sons or daughters, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you for sharing that impact that it has on the family and even their perceptions of what does it mean to work or own your expertise and all these wonderful things that you teach us in the course. So how did you come to own your role as an expert and CEO?
So the way you come to own anything is you have to own it, right? And because I didn't have any examples of what it looked like, I decided that I wasn't going to look to the right or the left. And I think this is important for your listeners to understand. I think a lot of times when we're thinking of starting our businesses, we forget that everything counts, everything that you've already done. And I already had an amazing career in corporate America. I was already a rock star there. And I decided that was enough because there were no other mom coaches. There was none of that. I had to, for myself, own what I had. And then I decided that equally that I would always own the transformation and the results that I was able to create for people, not discount it. And I think a lot of times when we're CEOs, particularly newer entrepreneurs, we don't own the results that we create for other people. We just kind of like, oh yeah, this kind of happened. I was able to help any single person really figure out how to plan what they were doing and figure out how to take what you're doing professionally and turn that into a business or product or service. That's what I was owning. And I just started telling that story so that more people who were looking for that could find me. And that was literally that. And I will say that I've done a lot, over the years in terms of positioning myself, obviously, because if you've got a new business, you've got to position yourself. And I decided to always just stay steeped in talking about what I knew about. In opposed to being who I thought I needed to be, I talked about what I knew about. And I found that it was a very, very attractive message to other women who needed my services. And, my company started to grow because I was only talking about the things that I knew how to do. And I was only doing it in a way that was congruent with my life, which meant, I didn't want to go on the road to build my coaching business. And I didn't. I didn't build my business, on the road as a speaker or anything like that. I built it. I always had my customers come to me. And I found that telling that story to other women, they wanted that too. So that's where a lot of that came from. And I would say that, over the years, I've done a number of things. I wrote books, obviously, the position. I've written 4 books. And they've all been, #1 bestsellers. I wrote books. And as a result of that, I've always used the book not from the position of becoming a millionaire from a book, because that's not real. Mm-hmm. But I always use it for positioning, Quenisha, to position who I am as a thought leader. And I use that platform to be able to write expert opinions based on what I knew, what were my truths. Like I said, I only talk about what I know about. And I pitch myself off into, media. Always been featured, always as the expert, never as a guest or anything like that, because that was the only position I ever took. And that was, I only stood on what I knew. And because of that, I was the expert. I had these systems in motherhood that were really working. And so I had women tell the story of how it was working. So, that's another thing that can help a lot of your listeners out there, that maybe you're already out there creating tremendous results for other people, but you haven't asked them to tell the story. And that's a really great way to position yourself also and your expertise. They can do it a number of ways. They can do videos. You guys do a lot of videos inside the community of what is going on, but also they can also write about, what a result is that, a benefit that as a result of them knowing you, something you added in their life, an outcome or a result that wouldn't have happened had they not met you. That's a great way to position also. And I will say the last thing that I did, I actually always went for mainstream media. And I know that a lot of times when we are newer in business, sometimes, or even if you're experienced in business, that's not what we think. We think like, I need to take this perfect path and create all of these tremendous big results in my company before I go big. But I always built my business like a big business. And so, I've pitched in media. I've done a lot of professional media, always as the expert. I was the Mom Strategist on the Ricky Lake show. I was signed to the Emmy-nominated, nationally syndicated show, America Now, as the Mom Strategist on that show as paid talent. And I was, I just shot maybe 40-some segments with them. And I've done a lot of professional TV, a lot of print publications, lending my expert advice. So that's a recommendation that I have to the audience. If you're already out there creating results, tell the story. Don't be afraid. Look for those big platforms, and don't feel like you aren't qualified because you've been in business a year or 2 years, or maybe if your company hasn't hit $500,000 or $1 million, you might feel like that's not for me. It's absolutely for you. And take a stand there.
I love it. One thing you talk about in your community is being a giant. And I love that you said, one, that you came to your work saying, I'm enough, right? I know that's a common thing that sometimes when we're starting out, or this has been my experience working with my clients, which is women in our community, they'll have 20, 30 years, doctorate degrees, all these things. And they're like, oh, I have to start off charging $97, or I can't charge this until this. And I'm like, what are all these like if and then things that you're talking about? You are an expert now. So I love that you didn't have that, but so many of the women in our community have, and it's that confidence to just go for what you want. And I love you said, own what you have. So really listen to this, folks. You heard it from me, a story. You can just start owning that expertise. And when I found me and going through your courses, the telling the story and having others tell the story really hit home for me, that one really saying like, I know what I know. When people have told me I know what I know, and I've gotten the results, and like owning that, and then asking them like, hey, come share how I helped you.
Yes.
Instead of like being like the secret, like behind the veil of like, yes, there's people out there that I've helped, but not asking them to almost pay it forward, right? So that
that's right.
Inspired. So I love that in your programs and all that stuff, you really help us pull that out and build systems around it, so that we're not these like hidden entrepreneurs, and people can really see like we know what we're doing.
Well, I think it's so interesting too, is that we all have a giant inside of us. And I think that, but we hide, you know what I'm saying? And the thing is, you think about the behavior of a giant, right? Giants are tall, they make noise, they take up room. Mm-hmm. And so if what you're putting out there in this world doesn't do that, you're not playing big enough. And you know it. I mean, we all know it. And, and if you're looking at like your revenue in your business and you're looking at the results or your email list or whatever it is that you're doing, and at the end of the day, it's not taking up room. It's not, you know what I mean, such that there's an overflow, right? Like for you, then you're not playing big enough. You know that you're not making a big enough ask of yourself. You know what I'm saying? ASK, right? Of yourself, right? And that's important. And, and I will say this, Quanisha, I've only had 2 coaching programs in 13 years, right? So I have other offerings, but I've only had 2 coaching programs. And every single program I've ever offered has always done 6 figures because my mindset was that I was already making 6 figures. So why would I start a business and make a request of myself to make less than that?
Right.
So I only designed the business always to do exceptionally well. So, my very first program, I sold that program it was something like $167 a month, 144 people signed up. It did over 150 grand, I think 160 some $1,000, right out the gate, right? Like this is but I didn't know any different. Like literally. So, a lot of times I think what helps us is to really be thinking about our value, you know what I'm saying? And not being apologetic or playing small or asking for things that we know from the beginning won't do it. $97 would be one of those things. Okay. Like, you know what I'm saying? Okay.
You're not going to get to 6 figures fast if you only show $97.
That's right. So it's just really important.
Yes, I just love it because, we talk about, and you've heard me talk about the 3 C's, the clarity, confidence, and courage. And I feel like you're just hitting home, particularly that confidence and courage piece that is so pivotal. We can't shrink and do this work well. And so you're hearing it from Titan in the industry, right? Luckily, she had these issues from the beginning. So you came out, like a heavyweight champion. So with that, though, what were some of your early challenges that you faced and how did you overcome them when you decided to start your business?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for that one. One of my biggest challenges was perception because nobody knew what mom coaching was. Okay. No one knew what it was. And no one knew who I was and why in the world how in the world did I think that I could be called the mom strategist? Literally, that was the biggest hurdle I think I had was perception. Mm-hmm. And what I realized is that if you are a thought leader and you see things that don't already exist, okay, then that's probably a challenge that every thought leader here has, right? Perception. And you have a decision to make, like, are you going to believe what other people believe about you, their truth, you know what I'm saying? Or are you going to do the work that you were put here on this planet for? Mm-hmm. And I decided that for myself that I wasn't going to look for validation from other people to determine whether or not what I had was valuable or not. That my job was to find those people that got me, okay? And that was it. And I will tell you that I remember I was pitching to some corporations, some Fortune 100 corporations. And I'll never forget, I was pitching to Panera Bread. I got my first corporate deal for my book. I did 2 corporate partnerships with Panera Bread. But I was pitching to them, and I'll never forget it. Like when you're pitching to people that get you, they get you. Now, when you pitch to someone or you are saying who you are and what you do, or who you serve to someone that doesn't get you, then they want you to prove to them, right? They want you to prove to them that that's real or not. And what I realized was that was not my job. I think one of the pivotal moments for me was dealing with this idea of perception of bringing something forward that nobody really knows what is, that I'm meant to birth and broker, you know what I'm saying, and give definition to, right. But in the same token, not to stand in my value and not to shrink, you know what I'm saying, not to shrink, because it's easy to do that. And anyway, it becomes easier the more you start to pitch and share who you are and you find people that get you, because I remember when I signed my first deal with Panera Bread and I was like, oh man, they got it. I never, ever thought again about anyone that said, what? Like, what? Mom strategy? Like, what? Mom coach? Mm-hmm. I was like, they are not for me. But like, it's not my job to school you. I am looking for someone who sees what I see.
I'm clapping over here because I just love it. Like, there are so many people, you have so many clients, there are people who are just going to get you, right, and what you're doing. And of course, you have to explain like the how, maybe the process,
Sure.
take them
Sure.
through. But like you said, I'm not here to convince you that I have value. I'm not here to convince you that my business is a business and it's solving a problem, right? And
That's
so I
right.
like the idea of like your job is to, like you said, build a platform, get out there, but you're really looking to attract the people who get it. And if someone
That's
doesn't
right.
get it, they're not meant for you, or maybe they got to be on your email list longer, but it's not for you to be here to shrink in that way of saying like, oh, well, maybe it doesn't, maybe it doesn't work because this person doesn't get it. No, there are people who get it, and your job is to show
That's right.
Woo,
That's right.
that's
right.
Good work. I really hope y'all getting that. There will be some people who don't get it, but that's not your problem.
That's right.
It's not your problem.
That's right. Your environment never dictates your worth. I think that was one of the biggest lessons that I learned. Your value is not established like that. And I think so many of us think it is. Like, so if somebody doesn't want to buy, let's say you're putting something out there and somebody doesn't want to buy it, and you're like, oh, I can discount it, maybe it's too much, or no. Okay. Your responsibility is to find people that get you, that value what you bring to the table, that need the transformation that you provide. That's it. And, that's it. Allow you to hold your value.
I just want to echo this because it might have gone kind of fast, but Mia said your environment does not dictate your worth. Your environment does not dictate your worth. Someone really needed that one. I'm taking a witnessing breath. that was deep, Mia. That's So we know that you described the Mom Strategist, helping folks balance this. You shared a little bit how you've done it, but how have you integrated the work, the business, the life, the self-care, and the family? And I guess maybe the Cliff Notes version, because I know you have whole systems around this that you share with everyone.
Yes, sure. Well, I will tell you that, and I think you know this part of my story, but I'm not sure, but I know your listeners don't. What was it, 8 years ago, my husband developed kidney disease. Do you know this?
Yes.
Did you know this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So my husband developed kidney disease 8 years ago and went on dialysis. And dialysis is a pretty aggressive therapy. It's about 15 to 18 hours a week, where he was dialyzed every single week. My kids were so young at that time. My oldest was 11, my daughter was like 9, and my youngest was 6 years old. And we also have a commercial laundry. So this is like crazy. This is crazy for my family. And one of the things that I realized is that, and so grateful for, was that one, that I had built a business, one that leveraged my time, that was time rich, right? In true sense, because during that time I could still be there for my husband, right? When he needed me most, when my kids needed me in a completely different way because of my family changing. But also what I loved also was the fact that I had systems in my life that honored me, right? Like I had built a culture in my family of self-care. And so I'll never forget this. To me, this is one of the most profound compliments from my mom. Like my husband got called 3 years ago for his kidney transplant. And my mom came over, because they call you for kidney transplant. You've got 24 hours. I mean, you don't even have 24 hours. You got a couple hours to get to the hospital, but within 24 hours, your whole world changes, right? And my mom comes over with the expectation that, oh my gosh, like she doesn't know what to expect, right? We don't know, what to expect. We've never done this before. And I've got 3 kids and they're in school and all of these things. And I think she was expecting chaos. And that's not what happened. She came to my house to be there for the kids, when they got out of school. And what she saw was we had the cleaning lady was coming, right? I had my cleaning lady come so that she could support me, because I knew that I still wanted to keep my house great, and that, I need a system for that. Laundry, I own a commercial laundry, so I don't do laundry. But nonetheless, we have a system for that. We would just put the laundry outside the door. Somebody comes and picks the laundry up. They bring it back, and we just put it away. It's folded and shrink wrapped. And my food, I would deliver, have my food delivered, and then my mom would just literally have to cook. And my mom said to me, she said, you know what, Mia? She said, if this were me, She said, I would be trying to be at the hospital all day, do my, my family's laundry, you know what I mean, and clean my house. And she said, and I would be completely overwhelmed. And she was like, and I'm watching you, get in late from the hospital, and you could just rest. I could just be where I needed to be, like be there for my husband in the hospital. And it's been a progressive, process of understanding that self-care, that the best self-care is systematic, that it's not just doing something here or there. It's understanding, looking at what are the deficits in my life? Like literally, what are the things that are keeping me from being loving and kind? What are the things that are keeping me from having true joy and intimacy in my relationships? If that's laundry, you need a system around that, because nothing gets in the way of the things that matter most. What is getting in the way of us being able to have dinner together every night? If you don't like to cook, like there's systems for that, right? Like, what could that look like? What could it look like to have bulk meals cooked on Saturday or Sunday so that you can really have dinner together if that's the goal you want to hit? And that's how I think about it. I think about, the things that matter most, which is quality time. You can't get that back. You know what I mean? Like, dating my husband, I can't get, those are the things that I want to make sure that if I'm going to grow a business, that my life informs my business, that my business does not inform my life, and that I've got systems so that, I can enjoy the people in my world, and not be overrun. And I will say that I do see that a lot of times women think that self-care is maintenance care. And I don't see it that way. I think that getting my hair done is maintenance care. Like getting my nails done is maintenance care. Sitting under a dryer is not therapeutic for me. Okay. Now, up leveling my look is self-care. You know what I mean? In that sense, but maintenance care is not self-care. That's a baseline requirement of what it needs for you to feel good in your body, whatever that looks like. Right. I even see getting massages that way as well. It's maintenance care. All right. But self-care, in my opinion, is building a culture within your family that says that everyone matters here. That means me too. All right. And that means that we all need to take time and rest. That means, me too, right? A lot of times women forget to count themselves in that process. I will say this, that the impact is great when your kids grow up in a family where self-care is a prominent part of their culture. It means that you back in the driveway and the kids instantly run out to get the groceries and put them away. It means that, the table's always going to be set because we all share in what makes our life great and amazing. It means that there's an expectation in your family that, everybody gets a date. I date myself every single week, at least 90 minutes a week. It means I date my husband every other week. We date every week, but every other week systematically. And I date my kids individually once a month. And I have since they've been little children. And, the best way to build intimacy and true connection in any relationship is by dating them. To me, those are just some of the basic systems that I use, and they really do work.
Oh, I love this. This is wonderful, particularly the systems. And also it's reminded me of like, oh yeah, Mia did tell me that. Let me make sure I can implement this. But this idea, I love you. The best self-care is systematic, and that self-care is it's a culture your self-care is a culture that everyone matters. Like, and as you were talking, I was just thinking this is so counterculture to how we're often socialized as African Americans, particularly African American women. Right?
Yes.
About the strong Black woman, the stereotype of the mammy, right? We're the one carrying the groceries in. Maybe we'll call to one of the males to come help us. But typically we're cooking and we're cleaning and we're doing laundry. And what you are advocating for and what you've seen in your life. And it's funny that you have this generational example, right? Your mom versus you. She said, this is what I would be doing, but this is what you do. And that it's almost okay for us, or what I've had to tell myself is that it's okay for me to not clean like my grandmother did, and maybe to have someone come into my house and clean, right? It's okay for me to use a laundry service. Like I have to kind of like coach myself constantly that I'm not less of a woman or less of a mom because I've been socialized a way. So it is, you can say, counterculture, right? And we have to open up our ideas to these other ways of being. so that we aren't continuing to be the muse of society or even the muse of our family, right?
Sure.
It only depends on us. And our setup is so different, right? You have career women, business owners, right? Budding business owners. And some of us are working 40, 50 hours. And it's like, how do you expect to do some of the things that our parents did with different schedules, right? Or just different lifestyles. So it is a whole new shift that we would have to make to honor ourselves in this way.
Totally. But it's important.
Yeah.
It's important. It's important, and it changes the blueprint for your children. I firmly believe that we give to our children who we are. That's why it's so important to show up for yourself. And a lot of times, we are saying as moms, like, I want to give my kids the best, but you're not giving yourself the best. And if you're not giving yourself the best, then you're not giving your kids the best. If your husband, for those of you who are married, right, or your partner, if your husband, your partner is living with you and you're unfulfilled, and every day you come home and the biggest statement that you make is about what you don't like, you know what I'm saying? Then you're not showing up for your whole family because you're not showing up for you. That's how I look at life, right? Like, at the end of the day, if I'm happy doing what I love to do, then I'm going to be that much happier to live with. And I'm certainly going to be that much more willing to be loving, right? And intimate, because I'm feeling good in the skin I'm in. So it's definitely food for thought.
Yeah, and Lisa Nichols says something really pivotal, I think really, really much aligns with what you said, is that we should give from our overflow. And so everything I heard you say is about filling yourself up, right? So then you can from your overflow. And that's a totally different space. And Iyanla Vanzant talked about when we give from a place of emptiness, we're actually making a thief out of the other person, right?
Oh,
so
absolutely.
Just came, like, those two quotes just came to mind of the importance of giving from our overflow. And I know it's a challenge for me. It definitely is a shift that has to be made. So Mia, how do you go about setting goals and executing and staying focused?
Well, that's a big question, but I will say it's a great question. The first thing that I start with is a vision board. And I am a vision board girl. I have always had it, whether it's been a board or whether it was a vision journal. I've had them always over the years. And I use a vision board. I don't do a whole lot of pictures. I actually like to write words on my board of what I see for myself. And then I work on all year. My goal is around being that person that can grow into that goal. What I learned over the years is that the reason that a lot of times people don't hit their goals is not because the goal is impossible. It's because of, what you deposit in yourself, how you see yourself. Okay. So I read a lot, I invest a lot in my mindset. Because if I can be the person, if I can be a different person, if I can think differently about who I am or how to solve a problem, then that goal is done, right? And a lot of times the reason that people don't reach their goals is because they don't change the way they see the world. And that means their world, right? So, I always say, look, if you think big about who you are, you can have a small opportunity, but by the time you're done, you make it big, because that's how you see the world. That's how you see yourself. But if you can have an amazing opportunity in front of you, but if you think small, okay, you only ask for small. So my responsibility is when, I put these things on my vision board every single year, and as I fine tune them throughout the year, is to grow into a person that will support me with that. And I do a lot of that, working on myself throughout the year. That's my job.
I just love that. It's a lot of times we don't think about who do I need to be to achieve that. And then one, did you even set a big enough goal or dream? But then it's who
sure.
to come and grow into to achieve that, right? Sometimes goals
sure.
that we think are still in our comfort zone, but it sounds like you're saying if you really have a growth mindset, all these things should be beyond so that you're continually growing to reach them.
Well, if you have a goal that requires no growth, the goal is too small. And that's the reality. I mean, I just had, I was just on a call with my coach earlier today, and we were going through just a new goal for me, actually, a new program. And I'm telling you, the goal was so big that literally I felt a tinge in my spine. I mean, like I had a physical experience because the goal is so big. That that lets you know, like, look, you got to grow into that. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna have to change something in your world. You're gonna have to ask for something different. You're gonna have to hang around different people. You're gonna have to do something different, and that is all growth. You know, you can't create something new doing something old. And so I'm into that. Like, I'm into like having something that I can't answer the how am I gonna do it, but I'm committed to doing it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll figure out the how as I do it. And you know, and I will say that. I mean, you know, throughout the years, I've had so many significant, you know, goals that I've hit over the years, of which, if I looked at them and tried to explain how in the world will I be able to walk through this studio's door, you know, it wouldn't make any sense, like literally at all. However, I don't approach my goal setting that way. I focus on who do I need to become in order for that to happen. That's it. That's my only focus.
I love that. Who do I need to become in order for that to happen? Excellent. And this actually segues really well into our kind of closing inspiration and advice for listeners. So what is one piece, you shared so much wisdom, but what is one piece of wisdom that you would share with the woman who is frustrated building her business and desires to become a rock star CEO? Or another way to think about this is, what do you wish someone told you when you started this journey?
I think that the number one thing that I would say, if someone is frustrated with their business, I would say you have a life problem. That if you have a business problem, you're having a life problem. A lot of times we don't think of it that way, but it's true. And what I mean by that is that likely somewhere in your life, right, you aren't owning your greatness, owning your bigness, realizing how fantastic you really are. And one of the very first steps that I would say is read the book. This changed my life, this book. What to Say When You Talk to Yourself, by Shed Helmstetter. Shed Helmstetter. Great, great, great book about the power of reframing your inner game, like what you're saying to yourself. Okay. And so that's a life problem in my opinion. Because if I can change what I think, then I change my behavior, right? It changes as a result of if I change what I think. Yeah. So that's what I would suggest, is that if you are frustrated, you know, frustration is a choice too, to be frustrated, you know, but that's not a choice that changes your world. Instead, choose something that will assist you in where you want to be, which is change the way you think. All right. Because that will help you co-create some of those possibilities or become more attractive, right? Imagine if you're frustrated because you don't have the kind of customers you want, or you're not making the sales you want. Nothing about that is attractive. But instead, imagine focusing more on being a person that's magnetic and excited, you know what I mean? And interesting, right? Same energy, you know, but the choices are different. And the outcomes as a result of that is different. I would read Shed's book, phenomenal book. I read it a couple of times a year, and he helps you with scripting for yourself to work on your inner game. Everything really starts there. You know, successful entrepreneurs, they're no different than anyone else. They just think differently, and they act differently because they think differently.
I love that. And we'll make sure that book is linked in our show notes so that you can get What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Shed. And I'll look it up and then send it to you. Make sure it's the right book. That we have there. I'm going to get it myself because I know, you know, cognitive behavioral perspectives is my thing, right? Reframing, but I still have to do that work every day, especially as someone who has a mental illness that just constantly is bombarding me with like negative thoughts. I have to do so much. So really heed this advice, everyone, that your thoughts, right? This has been proven psychologically that your thoughts impact your feelings and your emotions, will impact the actions that you take. And ultimately that impacts the results, right? And the outcomes that you see in your life. So as Mia said, you're no different than that successful entrepreneur. You're just thinking differently and therefore acting differently. So Mia, what is your mantra? What is your personal mantra or a motto or saying or quote that you live by?
You know, to thine self be true. Like show up, I want to be me, 100%. And what I find is, and I encourage everybody here to think about that for yourself, like, you know, be yourself. You're 100% authentically true to who you are. And that means that let's just say, you're a Christian and you are a business coach. You don't have to separate that. I don't care what anybody says. Be you. Be 100% you. Okay. And in doing that, you'll find that it's going to be a lot easier to sell what you have. It's going to be a lot easier to come up with great and amazing content. It's going to be a lot easier to be attractive to your audience because that's who you are. And so many entrepreneurs that I get to work with sometimes they believe or they've been told, like, hey, look, leave that mommy thing alone. Like, if you want to be a business coach, like, be a business coach, but don't talk about that mommy thing, right? And when I always tell them, it's like, no, that's important to you. It's also going to be important to the people that want to work with you. So never separate from that.
I love that. Be authentically you, 100% you. Awesome. And what's the number one success strategy or tip you would give to women who are in the early phases of building a business?
I would say associate with your ambition level and above. And that's it. Okay. So if you want to grow, you've got to get around people who are above you, literally, not above you in terms of your ability and your skills and your capability. Because when you know what they know, you can do what they do. But you can't do what they do if you aren't around them. And your responsibility is to get in rooms, be in places and spaces that make you uncomfortable. Sometimes you might be you might be in a room and people might be talking about things and you feel like, I feel uncomfortable because I can't contribute to the conversation. That's exactly where you need to be so you can learn that language. You want to learn that language, all right? That's the language called growth, right? And so there's not going to be any dis-ease without growth.
I love that. So sometimes when we're feeling uncomfortable, you're like, am I supposed to be here? Yes, that's what you're supposed to be, to keep growing and learning, right? Investing in yourself by sometimes investing in other people or being in those spaces, right? That will help you up level your game. Great success strategy. So Mia, this has been a wonderful interview. And I know folks are probably sitting here like, I need more Mia. So Mia, how do folks connect with you and end up in your world?
So it's very simple. All they need to do is go to miaredrick.com. Easy. My first and last name, MIA Redrick, REDRICK.com. And then you can be a part of my world. So.
All right. Awesome. And we'll make sure that link, as well as the book Mia recommended, are in our show notes over at blackwomenceopodcast.com. So thank you again, Mia. And thank you to our listeners for supporting our podcast and listening to these behind the scenes strategy. I love the reviews that are coming in and it helps to fuel this work. So have a good one, everyone. And remember, power is the ability to create your reality. As emphasized in this episode, it is important that we do not grow alone on this entrepreneurial walk. And with that, I want to invite you to consider coming into our Black Women CEO community called the Aya Network. It's really for the empowered women just like you, right? You know that there are bigger things out there for you. You feel it, but you just don't know where to begin. And guess what, sis? It's perfectly okay to feel this way, even if you're highly educated, have multiple degrees, and a successful career. You can still feel a bit insecure about doing this whole business thing. And guess what? I totally get it. Right? But I want you to know that you are not alone. So whether you have a business that lives off referrals, right? And you're trying to figure out, well, how do I actually have a formal marketing channel? Maybe you're accomplished in your career, but you feel like your talents aren't being used to build your legacy. Perhaps you have a great idea that you want to launch, right? But you don't know how to build a business from it. And like I said, you have multiple degrees in your successful career, but once again, you're feeling insecure, or you're just not excited that you're being underpaid and undervalued and you're ready to build a business around what you're passionate about. Aya is for you. It is a network, a sacred space for women entrepreneurs doing all levels of business. And you'll have instant access to the strong network of like-minded women, empowered Black women who can give you great insights and tools to make your business work, right? And I'm the host of the Aya Network. So with Aya, you get group coaching, virtual masterminding, expert training sessions, and we help you to implement, right? So we have implementation challenges and all these pieces. So by joining Aya, you get access to our amazing community and network of successful Black women entrepreneurs who have found their niche and place in the world. And guess what? It's time for you to say yes. Yes to creating the life you desire to live. Yes to doing things on your own terms. Yes to that you are enough, right? And yes, you can have the successful business that you envision. So if this is something that sounds like you, right, or that what you've been looking for, and having a community where you can grow and also share your insights along the way, as well as get support, right? If you've been enjoying the Black Women CEO community, go ahead and go over to blackwomenceo.com/yes Aya. That's YESAYA, and we'll put that here in the show notes. And Aya is the Adinka symbol, meaning resourcefulness and endurance. And that's exactly what business is. And we want to help you in all of those seasons. So that is why it is called the Aya Network. And that's why it's a sacred space. So go over to the page, blackwomenceo.com/yes Aya, and you'll see more details as well as numerous testimonials from women who have been in our community. Because our goal here at Black Women CEO is to be a global hub dedicated to women like you, right? The Black woman, successful Black woman, ambitious Black woman who is ready to really reclaim your worth, right? When your self-worth as well as your worth in the marketplace, and earn more. So if that sounds like you and what you desire, definitely come on in. We're going to empower you with the necessary training and business tools to take your professional life into your own hands and to live on your terms. So just go over to blackwomenceo.com/yes Aya, click the button that says join the community, and guess what? We even give you a free 3-day trial to check it out. Be in community with us, check out some of the trainings and the courses, get on a call right during office hours or our coaching call. So you get to try it out for 3 days before you can fully make a commitment to join. All right. Well, I hope to see you in Aya. Talk soon.